Hi, this is David Davis from ActualTech Media. I'm excited to be here at Maxta headquarters. I'm joined by Kiran, who's the Vice President of Product Management. How you doing, Kiran?
I'm doing very good.
Great.
Welcome to Maxta.
Well, thanks for having us. So,
Sure.
The ActualTech Media audience, they're excited about hyperconvergence. Hyperconvergence has really gone from being kind of a niche, product with a few use cases to a mainstream product, these days. And so what I've learned about Maxta is that you all are unique in the market because you focus on application-defined hyperconvergence. And so I wanted to first ask, what exactly is application-defined hyperconvergence?
That's a very good question. So if traditionally, if you look at storage arrays, right, they configure the storage array to meet the demands of the application. Every application is unique. They need their own policy set. For example, if it's in a traditional array, it could be the RAID type. Oracle, for example, prefers to be a RAID 10, and some other applications are good with RAID 5. So every application needs are different. So now with hyperconvergence, how do you bring those policies and how do you bring those storage characteristics when you are configuring just a VM? There is no more, especially with Maxta, there is no RAID configuration, there is no none of those storage level constructs, right? So you are configuring a VM. How do you bring those policies in? So with what Maxta has done unique in the space is to say, let's build this concept of application defined wherein users configure an application with certain policies and we will use those and drive it all the way through to a storage layer. For example, certain applications, for example, Exchange, if it needs a higher page size, we can go configure that on the Maxta platform, and at the storage layer, we preserve that block size. For a VDI, if customers would prefer a 4K page size, then we could go preserve that on the storage side. So here the idea is to configure a VM to the best of what the application vendor describes, and then take that all the way down to the storage so that you get the best of both worlds and get the best performance.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting because, I know most enterprises, they virtualize their tier 1 applications. They just put them all on the same, LUN, and then they start experiencing this I/O blender effect, as it's been called, where a lot of different applications experience I/O latency because, like you said, every application has its own storage needs, its own, storage profile or characteristic. And traditionally, just sticking it all on the same LUN isn't going to work. So application-defined hyperconvergence allows companies to say, take an application like Exchange and align the disk block size. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah. So that's one parameter.
Okay.
Exchange, typically Microsoft recommends either a 64K or a 32K page size. So you can go configure that. For a SQL database, if it's 8K, you can do that. There are other parameters similar to it. Things like, hey, how many copies of data do I need? And also in a SQL database, for example, for the transaction logs, you don't need to read cache because it's right? There is no necessity to read. There's nothing being read from there. So on the Maxta platform, you can configure it to say, hey, here's a virtual disk that's going to be used for transaction logs, disable read caching. Or if you know that you're already going to store already compressed data and it cannot be compressed anymore, you can go set a parameter to say, don't compress data for this data that's on this virtual disk. So you get a lot of these policies that you can define based on what the application needs are.
And that's really helping Maxta's hyperconvergence solution replace traditional SAN or NAS arrays in the data center because you can finally define that the application needs.
Exactly. And we can support all enterprise applications, and it helps customers to really replace a traditional storage array with the Maxta hyperconverged platform.
Okay, and what about licensing and kind of doing a proof of concept? How can people get started?
There are multiple ways. One of the most interesting that we have seen a lot of traction is with this concept called freemium, where customers can come to our website, register for a freemium. So we give them the software completely free of cost. It's exactly the same software. The only limitation is it can scale up to just 3 nodes and 24 terabytes in capacity. But once you buy the normal support and convert it into a normal license, that limit goes away. Other than that, it's a fully featured product with exact same capabilities, and it's an awesome way. And even you can test it without even reinstalling it and so on. You can apply the new license and become production.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a great way. It's a very easy way to get started with hyperconvergence. Try it out, in a lab or a long-term proof of concept, and see how it works.
Yes.
Thanks so much for your
Absolutely.
time today, Kiran. For more information, maxta.com.
Yes, more at Maxta.com. They can or send email to sales. They can reach out to us that way.
Excellent.
Or they can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and get more information.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Kiran.
Thank you.